Welcome to Forthright, the podcast with, for and by women writers.
We have some brilliant guest writers lined up for you this season, covering a wide range of genres and experience.
We hope you enjoy. Hi, I'm Anna.
And I'm Sam, and welcome to the Forthright podcast. Today we've got Chikodili Emelumadu with us. It's great to have you.
Thank you for having me.
So, Chikodili was born in Worksop, Nottinghamshire, and raised in Awka, Nigeria. Her work has been shortlisted for the Shirley Jackson Awards 2015, the Caine Prize for African Literature 2017 and 2020, and has won a Nommo Award 2020. In 2019, she emerged winner of the inaugural Curtis Brown First Prize for her manuscript and is currently shortlisted for another Nommo Award at 2024.
Fantastic. And today we're absolutely delighted that you're going to be reading from Dazzling. So I'm just going to read the blurb and then over to you for your reading. So Treasure and her mother lost everything when Treasure's daddy died. Haggling for scraps in the market, Treasure meets a spirit who promises to bring her father back, but she has to complete a monstrous task. Ozamena has an itch in the middle of her back that can't be scratched. An itch that tells her of great and terrible destiny passed down through generations to defend people by becoming a leopard. Her father impresses on her what an honour it was before he vanished, but it's one she couldn't want less. But as the two girls reckon with their burgeoning wildness and the legacy of their father's decisions, Ozamena's fellow students at her new boarding school start to vanish. Treasure and Ozamena will face frightening choices as they're drawn into the battle with sinister forces, and it's a fight they can't both survive. Okay, so over to you, and if you wouldn't mind just contextualising where in the story you're going to be reading from for our listeners, that'd be great.
I'm reading from chapter 5, and it's Treasure's chapter, where we see her in the aftermath of meeting the spirits in the marketplace.
Brilliant.
Yeah? Yeah. So the bag of ugly is in front of our door the next morning. Afraid is doing my whole body from my head down to my toes. My left eye is pulling by itself, and I pluck hairs from my eyelashes to stop it because it's bad luck. I remember the spirit eating raw intestines and saliva filled my mouth. The way I ran from him, leaving the ugly fruit behind, leaving everything. I ran and ran until my chest wanted to break open and the air rushed into my mouth, tasting bitter. It don't matter. He has found me anyway. I pick up the bag of fruits and throw it in our compound dustbin. I spend the day watching the children in our yard go to sleep and wishing me I could as well. At night, I don't sleep well. Every sound wakes me. The mosquitoes sing in my ears, and when I slap them, I shot myself deaf. Mommy talks in her sleep, but she don't wake up. Small time after Daddy died, she started sleeping for many months, and sometimes short. 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks, and sometimes short. Her sleep has lasted 3 days this time, and even when she's awake, she'll be doing sleeping mulanya, talking people in the dream because her eyes will be open, but she will not be there. The noise in my stomach keeps the rats away from where they are chewing stick at the bottom of the door. Come morning, and there is a curtain by our door. It's closed, sealed with sellotape. I can't smell any smell from the box. I don't touch it. I want to wake Mommy, but when it has not reached for her to wake up, it's hard. Only Auntie Ojigo used to manage it, and even that used to take all her power. But anyway, me, I try, because I'm feeling that whatever is happening is bigger than me, and I need my Mommy. Mommy, wake up. She says Daddy's name and turns, but don't open her eyes. I hear landlady talking. She sits in front of her house on a bench, shouting at everybody. Her voice is loud, but also inside her throat, the way that masquerades speak, as if something is stuffed there and air is shifting through it to get outside. Under the bench, her dog Captain bites his tail, and flies are disturbing his ears. It makes me immediately to notice that the carton is no longer by our back door. And 2, Ifeanyi, landlady's grandson, is walking away quickly. He has the box. Give me my thing, I shout, running after him. Ifeanyi jumps the last few feet to landlady and sits next to her on the bench, holding the box. I'm breathing fast from chasing him. I don't even know why I'm going for something that I don't even want. Except that Ifan is a goat who takes what he wants all the time. And the rest of us in the compound are supposed to just close our mouths and let him misbehave anyhow. I greet landlady. She don't give me face. She shouts something across the compound to Omalicha, her daughter-in-law, that she hates because anything Omalicha touches turns to money. But she cannot born children for landlady's only son, Chooks. Ifani unpacks the carton as I watch. 1 loaf of Goodwill buttered bread, a tin of Bonvita, Nice biscuits, evaporated milk, and a packet of St. Louis sugar. The rest of the box holds mangoes, ripe and unripe. My life wants the carton box. I want it.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you so much. I was just completely engrossed in hearing you reading. I just wanted to ask you, could you tell us about the inspiration behind Dazzling? Where did the story come from?
Well, I think the story sort of percolated throughout life, honestly. It's sort of bits and pieces of my lived life in Nigeria.
Yeah.
I joke to people all the time that I must have had a traumatic life in boarding school because I went to boarding school at 9 years old. The setting for Dazzling is very much a real place, or it was a real place. It doesn't exist now. In fact, it's closed down for reasons that I cannot speak about. Mm-hmm. But it's closed down now, and it was very much a real school, a real private school in the middle of nowhere. It was very much a sought-after school. Parents wanted to send their kids to that school because it was in the middle of nowhere, which meant there were no distractions. And so you couldn't even escape the school because, like, where are you going? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it just came from perhaps the wounding of being away from family quite early on in life. I didn't recognize it as wounding per se, but having read articles by other people who had gone to boarding schools, I see that there was perhaps that. I mean, the expectation in Nigeria was that you would go to boarding school. That's what people who could afford to send their kids to school did. It was just a done thing, right? But it obviously means that in those formative years, you're away from your parents, and it can be a good experience in that you learn who you are without the sort of cushioning of mother and father. But at the same time, you're exposed to so many things that perhaps you're not even ready for. Nobody really prepares you for it. Neither of my parents went to boarding school, I don't think. Maybe my dad did, I'm not sure. But they had no experience whatsoever with boarding school. Talk more of a boarding school that was like the next state over, and then in the middle of a bush, like way out in the boondocks. So I think the bulk of the story came from being in that setting, being there too young. That was my first time of being away from home by myself. There's a lot of that. So you kind of have to learn very quickly because you're now with people who don't have the same experiences as you, who they can't possibly conceive of your life, and you can't really conceive of theirs. And you're forced into this environment where you have to learn from each other. And there's a hierarchy of boarding school where immediately all your rights are stripped away and you're just a junior girl. And so there's all of that. But the other thing was the fascination that also, maybe about 2 or 3 years prior to going to boarding school, I read this book about the Leopard Society in Nigeria, the fictionalized account. It's called The Bottled Leopard by Vincent, the late great Vincent Chukwuemeka Ike. And that was what led to my fascination with the Leopard Society, because you watch films and it's all about changelings and like American Werewolf in London and vampires and stuff. And I hadn't any idea until that moment that we had things like that, where people could take on an animal's being. It's not just its characteristics, but its actual being, where they could transmogrify into this animal. And it was fascinating for me that we had that. And so that became a kind of a lifelong obsession, really.
Can I just go back to when you were talking about drawing on your own experience to be able to write the novel? How have you dealt with kind of like fact and fiction in holding it both in your head at the same time, like drawing quite closely on your own personal experience to be able to write the novel?
I think that it helps to be away from home, for me personally. And also it helps that whenever I go home, like I haven't been back to that boarding school ever since I left. And I left after a year for other reasons, which I didn't do anything wrong. I shan't be talking about this for now, but I didn't do it. It wasn't my fault that I left. I left. But I think it helps not be in the immediate environment where I grew up. You know, it kind of helps to put things, it sets things. Because if I had to exist in the Nigeria of now, I am now, how old am I now? This is like almost 30 years later. The fact of me not being there has set the setting in stone for me. It's like frozen in time. Okay. Whereas if I had to be in the Nigeria of nowadays, where everything has sort of been built on top of something else, I'm sure that it would have modeled it up somehow in my mind.
Yeah.
But maybe not, because there's also the fact of being a writer, right? In that I know that memory is sort of, you can't really trust memory.
Yeah.
But the thing about writers is that they are obsessed with the things that they're obsessed with. And for me, it was this school. It was how could somebody send me here?
Yeah.
Kind of thing, you know? And I enjoyed the bits of it as I enjoyed, but as I was beginning to enjoy it, just as I was no longer on the lowest rung of the ladder, I got pulled out of the school, which then caused another wounding as well. So I think a lot of those little traumatic, I don't want to use the word trauma, because I think the word trauma is misused a lot nowadays, but it is a bit, isn't it? It's those little traumatic, first of all, I was yanked away from because I suddenly went to this boarding school, yanked away to boarding school. And then I was yanked away, you know, my father just came and said, okay, pack your things, you're leaving. So there is that whole thing of there versus here. It's very much a there place, like there's no modeling. You know, it was very easy for me to reaching into a box and just plucking the setting and then, using other things to kind of like make up the characters. But at the same time, this is a debut novel. I know, you know, I had high praise from Tracy Chevalier, who said, "Oh, it doesn't seem like a first novel is accomplished." It is a first novel, right? So obviously there must be some parts where I'm also borrowing from people. But I've had the benefit of this was published in my 30th year, and so. Being a writer who's also lived on different continents and has lived a relatively long life for people, because in writing it's kind of like, well, this is around the age that things start happening. Forget all the prodigies like Chibundo Onozo and Rebecca Kwang and all those people and Eleanor Catton. All those ones are like, we know that they've done it early, they've done it young. The age where people normally get published is this age. It's like in your 30s. You know what I mean? Like when you've lived a bit. So having lived a bit is very easy. It becomes easier to learn how to pick and choose experiences in your life. And because you've experienced so many other things and so many other people, it just goes in there and it percolates and it becomes something new.
And
you know, sometimes it percolates, sometimes it becomes a stew, you know. So it's so many different chemical processes going on in there.
Yeah, I was going to say, so did you know kind of what the whole story was going to be?
Yes,
when you started
pretty
writing,
much.
Yeah.
Yes, pretty much. The only thing I had a problem with, which kind of like it took 3 years of my life, was determining. You will not believe this, but determining who was going to be first person and who was going to be third person.
That's really interesting. That was the trickiest part. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the trickiest part for me, because I found out quite quickly that I don't like to narrate action sequences in the first person. I hate it. Because the thing about being in the middle of an action as a first person, maybe I don't have the skill at the moment, you're not thinking in the first person when an action is happening. You're just reacting to the whatever it is that is going on. And I found it a bit disingenuous to then take myself out of it, because at the time it was first person present tense.
That's a really tough one to write.
Exactly. I found it to be disingenuous to be describing the action as it's happening. That's not how it works. So, but chalk that down to being a new novel writer, because I started out in short stories a long time ago. It took me a longer time to work out than it should have really taken, to be honest. And that was the longest thing for me, I think. That was the hardest bit.
So you're just saying about knowing what the whole story is before
Actually, I lie a bit. Hold on, I just told a lie because I forgot something. No, I just told a lie. It's an unintentional lie. So when I started Dazzling, right, I had started it a little further along Ozemana's timeline. So she was older, right? But it wasn't working. I just remember that now. So before I got to even the past tense, present tense thing, I knew who the characters were. I knew all their lives. But I had started it a lot further along. So she was about like 19 or so.
Okay.
And I hated it. I hated it so much because it felt like I was just cheating somehow. And I wasn't introducing people to this world and grounding them in the world. So I had sent off a bit of it to this editor. Who did I send it off to? I sent off on the synopsis to, I think, Sigrid Ellis, who was at Apex at the time. And I didn't hear back for whatever reason. I thought, okay, well, she doesn't want to kind of tell me that it sucks. So then I threw it out and I said, you know what, let me just explain to people what this world that they are stepping into is, because not everybody is familiar with this world. It's a world that not a lot of readers would have encountered. And so I just kind of threw out that draft I was working on, and I went all the way back to the beginning. Now, that draft that I was working on, even though I'm not going to be using it anymore, even though I'm just going to be borrowing from her age, like the timeline that she currently exists in, that's book 2 of Dazzling now.
Oh, interesting. So it all comes round in the end, doesn't it? Like,
Yes.
But so you started off when she was older and then kind of had a moment where you wanted to bring us as a reader back into her life at an earlier stage. But with the practical planning, do you kind of set out what, like, for example, each chapter is going to look like before you start writing?
No, I tried that. I don't work that way. Sorry, no.
How do you work then? Tell us how you work.
Everything is in my head, man. So if I die, everything is in my head. Thank you for reminding me again. So you see, I kind of lied to you again. So because I was supposed to be a serious novel writer, right? So I went and I bought Scrivener, you know. And I plotted it out and planned it, and I hated it. Yeah. I cannot stand seeing it. I don't even know why I still have Scrivener now. I've never used it. You know, I've tried to use it several times because it helps you to kind of do. That's not my mind doesn't work in a gridlock pattern. It doesn't work in that kind of like straight lateral thinking. It doesn't work for me. And just seeing it there made me hate the work all the more. Yeah. You had chapter subhead, like you have things like you have different scenes for different chapters. No, because half the time when I'm starting the scene, I have in my mind the bullet points I'm going to hit, and then my characters go, "Hey, sucker!" and then they do what they want to do anyway. Which I've discovered is your subconscious. When you get out of the way of your subconscious, your brain is busy working while you're sleeping.
Yeah. But you work chronologically. Would you still write chronologically? Would you write chronologically?
Yes, I write chronologically because I'm not that crazy. You know, I will write chronologically because I know that it's hard not to write chronologically when you have to trust your intuition and trust your subconscious, because your subconscious is trying to if you go into a chapter, say you don't write chronologically, right, and you write a chapter, and then you start to write a chapter that should occur prior to the chapter you've just written, and the character goes, "Ha ha, sucker," and starts to do his own thing, then that means that the chapter you've written is useless.
Yeah.
You know, because your brain knows. Like, I used to think about it as this mystical thing where I don't know why these characters are doing what they want to do, but no, it's me. Okay, it's me. I've gone to bed with the conundrum, and my brain has said, right, now you're no longer in my way. Let me help you solve this. And then it solves it while you're sleeping, because that's how brains work. And then you wake up and think, okay, I'm going to write this story. And it's like, no, we talked about this. Never mind. Because sometimes the characters will say something and you're thinking, why are you saying this? Yeah. This is not what we discussed. Why are you saying it? And then, next paragraph, it makes sense. Like, and that's when you begin to tap yourself on the back, like, check you out. Oh, you genius. You, look at you, you know, because, you know, the thing about writing is it always leaves room for, I think I'd like to have room for surprising my own self as well. Because if I'm patting myself on the back already, I know that readers are going to be like, I can't believe she did that, you know. So I can't do it in that whole Scrivener. If I could give somebody the Scrivener I've got with all the codes, I'd be like, yeah, here you go, it's my gift to you, because I don't use it. I write on Microsoft Word. I'm very happy to scroll back up and read the thing I've written and then come back down again. I don't like that whole jump, click on a tab, and no, it doesn't work for me.
So, obviously you said before about, you've kind of come from short stories to the novel, and you've worked in different mediums as well, journalism and so on. And I heard you say in an interview that you really liked short stories because the idea was done and then you could move on to the next thing.
Yes.
So does that mean that it was harder to write in long form?
Not this story, no. No, not this story. Because like I said, I knew where it was going. And if you had asked me a few years prior, what's your first novel going to be about?
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't have been able to tell you. But all the obsessions came to a point. And as soon as the story appeared, I knew that's what it was going to be. So this particular book, Dazzling, was not, I kind of vacillated a lot with the whole point of view thing. I changed it so many times. I have about 500,000 words of Dazzling, 0.1 somewhere that possibly will never see the light of day somewhere on my old computer. But I pretty much knew what the story was going to be. Like I said, I knew the minute I realized that I had to shift her timeline forward, everything just kind of like, it's like a jigsaw puzzle. When you can see the picture, like, look at the picture. Oh, you beauty.
Yeah, so it's wonderful when that happens.
It's all great when that happens. Yes, exactly. With short stories, I think the time of life that I was in enabled me to be able to write short stories because I was a new mother and I had a lot to do. And I was not working outside the home. I was working my butt off inside the home. But the thing about working your butt off inside the home and looking after a child and as well as writing at odd hours of the day is that nobody is paying you for it, right? So there's more of an incentive for you to keep going because you can't fail. You can't afford to fail and then have to, or maybe you can. I mean, right now I know I can, but at the time it didn't feel as if I could afford to fail. And so short stories helped me to keep my interest because it meant that I could finish a project and move on. But also it meant that each new short story was its own thing. I wasn't carrying anything over from another project into it. So I could face it squarely. And with the kind of brain space I had at the time, it suited me just fine. Now, that being said, I cannot write any short stories right now. Like, I'm trying hard. So, like, somebody sent me a message saying, can you please do me a short story for June the 20th because we have some more spaces. I'm like, okay. Have another commission. Can you do us a short story for the 30th of June? I'm like, but at the same time, I'm trusting my brain to do its thing, because a lot of what I do doesn't look like work. Like I could just be talking to you and I'll just fall asleep, and then I'll wake up. That was a slight snore because I've started snoring ever since I had my second child. I snore now. So I'll wake up and then suddenly, I'll be like, oh my gosh, I just figured out what is wrong with it. So there's a lot of percolating. There's a lot of marinating in my life. Oh my gosh. A lot of the time I just become broke because it's as if, how people that have ADHD, I don't know because there's autism in my family, but I haven't ever been diagnosed with anything. But you know how a lot of ADHD people say that if they have something to do at a certain time of the day, they can't do anything else until that time they are appointed. So it's like that with me and stories in that right now, because I'm not doing short stories, my brain has got out of the habit of trying to juggle 8, 12, 13 things at the same time. So now I'm just here percolating on 2 books. And I can't seem to do anything else. So I'm always like, it's feast or famine with me. Like, oh, I'm rich. Oh, I'm poor. Oh, I'm rich. Oh, I'm poor. And so right now, I just have to get my butt in gear because I know that the story is there and I've never actually lacked for ideas at all. And so I think that short stories are their own thing and this novel. And also, like I said, it depends on the phases of your life. You just have to go with whatever phase of life you're in. A lot of the difficulties that writers face comes to deal with trying to kind of swim up current, swim against the current rather. And that's what makes things difficult. Just find whatever medium is working at that moment. And you're not a writer, you're a storyteller. Yeah. Tell the story.
You just said about when the children were young that you try and find these kind of pockets of time to be able to to write, and that it can be in short story format. But now that you're maybe your children are a bit older, and also you've written your novel, and now you're writing other things in longer form, what does your writing routine look like now, if you have one?
Did my agent send you?
No.
This sounds like you've been speaking to my agent. She wants to find out if I'm working at all.
What are you up to right
why
this
are you
minute?
asking me this? Why? I thought we were friendly on this podcast, but clearly not. I think right now, like I said, I'm having a lot of difficulty. Like I can't, because I'm focused on the two books that I'm trying to write at the same time, and because they're not really moving as well as and I'm homeschooling one of my children, by the way. So because of all these things, it's hard for me I'm not actually writing much. Each time I open my documents, well, that's a lie. I'm not writing much on my laptop, but I am scribbling all the time. Like, oh, that's a good turn of phrase. Oh, that's a good this, that's a good that. And I think for me, it's the biggest way in which I have changed as a writer has been in my ability to grant myself grace for the different phases of life that occur. Because being a writer, being an artist, being a creative person, you cannot exist in a vacuum. Sometimes other things will take precedence. As long as you are committed to your art, as long as you are making time for art, you don't actually, this is another thing, you don't actually have to be sitting down to write every single day. I don't believe it now. I used to believe it before, but I don't believe it now. But you have to have that headspace for creating something. At the same time, you have to be careful not to let the headspaciness of it all become the only thing that there is. At some point, you're going to have to write it down. If you cannot write it down, please narrate it to your recorder. Please narrate it to, this thing, what's it called again? The speak aloud function on your thing.
Yeah.
Write it down and let the speak aloud read it back to you, or dictate it to somewhere. But there are so many different ways of staying involved in the art. And I feel like a lot of people give up on writing and on storytelling because they have been told that there's only one prescribed, there's only one way of doing it. And so if you're not doing it that way, you're not legit. That is nonsense, So I think that for me, at the moment, each time I open the documents, I'm surprised to find many thousand words in there because I don't even know. I keep forgetting how many thousand words I have in there. That's how much I've done. But I've got to a point now where there is a lot of thinking. And I think some of it is also has to do with, I'm stubborn in that, how they say write things and then you can edit it later. You can't edit a blank page. Yes, but if the thing you're writing has nothing to do with anything, you wasted that energy, you wasted that time. As far as I'm concerned, I don't have that time to waste. I have a teenager and I have a 7-year-old. I don't have that time to waste. So in between homeschooling, being sort of like in this weird marinating position where because I'm not writing the book and that's what I should be writing, or the books and that's what I should be writing, I can't seem to write anything else, and having to mother my 7-year-old with all the extracurricular activities and whatnot, I'm just doing it when I can. I've given myself to the end of June. It's not going to happen. So I'm giving myself to the end of July now. But I never feel bad because I know I will get it done. Always. I know myself, I will get it done. So I think that as long as you're going to get it done, and I will get it done before the year is out, before we get to September, it's going to be done. I think I'm pretty much at ease with the kind of progress I'm making at the moment.
I like that attitude a lot. Can you tell us a bit about the book that you're working on, or books rather that you're working on?
No, this time. Which rival? Yes. So as I mentioned earlier in this podcast, I'm working on Dazzling Book 2. So I'm going back to Ozemana being in university. And like me, unfortunately, she's going to go to university early because I went to university at 16 years old and I got out at 20 years old. So she's going to sort of be like 18-ish because I want her to be legal for certain reasons. I don't know if there are sexual reasons yet. I don't think Ozemana is someone that really is sexual like that, but hey, she might surprise me, right? But I want her to be, she's simultaneously young, and because she has grown up in the spiritual realm a lot, She has seen things that no child should have to see. She's a lot older than her peers and consequently is detached from her peers. So she's a loner, and given the events that have transpired in book 1, she doesn't really trust people that much. So when we meet her, she's a loner in a university town, and something happens, and she has to put on her big girl pants. I don't know if I should I don't know if this is a spoiler, but she decides to have a break from the leopard at some point. So you're hearing it here first and last. I'm only going to tell you guys, I'm telling nobody else again, right?
Okay.
So she decides to have a break from the leopard. She decides that she wants to live a normal life, and she decides she's going to give herself a year, except the year becomes 2 years, becomes 5 years, becomes 6. And so when we meet her, she's suffering the unfortunate after effects of having her leopard severed from her. And in addition to having grown up too fast and not trusting anybody, she's sort of this loner figure who is also very good at pretending not to be a loner figure. So I'm actually interested in her journey. She seems quite, I feel for her. I feel responsible for her, but that's largely because I am. And I'm like, oh, you don't even know what's going to happen to your poor life. Oh, dear. So there's that. And the second novel I'm working on is a novel that has the working title Civet. And it's about, and I'll tell you why again. Only you guys, I'm telling this thing, by the way. So the reason I chose the title Civet is because African civets are endangered, right?
Yeah.
And they've also been hunted for so many properties, including their mosque properties, but they're endangered and hunted to extinction. And this girl has recently got engaged to this guy whom she's beginning to discover, not only that he might not be what she thinks he is, because she feels grateful to him for being chosen. She's a late bloomer. She's just become beautiful, and he chooses her out of everybody else. But that she might be like a titular animal, might be serving more of a purpose in his life than he is serving in hers. Yeah.
Oh, so intriguing.
And so I can't believe how quickly this has gone, but we've got just one quick final question for you, which is for any of our listeners who are new to writing or are kind of starting on their writing career, what bit of advice would you give them?
Oh, I'd like to think that this whole thing was full of advice that I'd give you.
Absolutely.
Honor the
one final gem then.
Yeah, honor the phase of your life. I would say honor where you are, but don't lie to yourself. Okay, don't lie to yourself. Don't be one of those people that's like, oh, I could write if I have the time. Shut up. Just do it. Like Nike, do it. Don't be hung up on whether you're a writer or not. You're a storyteller first and foremost. Before we invented language, the written form of language, we were telling each other oral stories. Why don't you practice that art? It's a skill. If you had me in front of a stage to tell you a story, the skill set I would employ to be an engaging and effective storyteller is a totally different skill set from the one I would need to be a good writer.
Yeah.
So just find the medium and honor the phase of your life that you're in. But don't do nothing. Okay?
Yeah.
We're highly superstitious writers, I know. If you do nothing, the muses will just desert you. And they will take all your talents and they will give it to some rubbish person that probably doesn't even deserve it. And you'll be there looking at them on the New York Times bestseller list. Somebody that probably will plagiarize from everybody else but will still make it. So don't do nothing, but don't try to swim upstream.
Yeah.
Don't swim against the current of your life. Go with the flow, and be open to discovering where you are, how you are, and how to better tell those stories that you want to tell. It's not necessarily, some of it is writing in that you have to script it before it goes onto a secondary medium. Some of it is not. But just honor the phase of your life and be honest with yourself.
Wonderful. Brilliant.
Oh, thank you so much. I think we could have chatted for hours, really, but yeah.
Yeah, I found your questions it made me kind of think, and I kept on having to go, actually, I've said this, but actually I just remember because of the way she asked me this question, I just lied to her, so I have to go back and correct myself. But yeah, I forgot all this stuff. I really did. I forgot that I actually started Dazzling from somewhere else altogether. Totally blanked on that one. So
well, we
thanks for
thoroughly
reminding me.
enjoyed it, and thank you. Yeah, thank you for your brutal honesty throughout as well. And for our listeners, if they would like to find you on social media, are you on the socials? And if so, could you just let us know what your handles are?
I'm on Twitter as Chikodili Emelumadu. So consonant vowel. It's one word, Chikodili Emelumadu. I'm on Twitter there. I'm on Instagram with that. On Twitter, I'm there as CH Emelumadu, so Che Emelumadu. And I think I'm on Threads as well, actually, because that's a new thing. And also on Blue Sky.
Brilliant.
But I can't remember what my name is there. Probably just Chikodili. Yeah.
Fabulous.
Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for giving us your time.
Thank you, Anna and Sam, for having me. It was such a pleasure as well.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the Forthright podcast.
Check out our website, forthright.uk, for further writing resources.